And that's how I always like to start these episodes.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're back. It's Keeping It Rio. I think the last 75 or so episodes, I've ingrained it in your minds. The world famous Keeping It Rio. And it's also your favorite podcast. And if that's even in dispute at this point, I don't know why you're here. But I'm going to win you over today, if I haven't for the first 183 episodes, because I got myself a great guest today. And we're having a little fun cracking up before we hit record. It is going to be a great one, and I would like to just waste absolutely no time whatsoever to introduce to you, my fans, the head nut. I love that title, head nut over at Roof Nuts. It's Jay Bradley. Jay, welcome to Keeping It Rio, my friend. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Reached out to you on TikTok and said, hey, man, I'd love to be on your podcast, and you were gracious enough to allow me on it. So thank you so much for having us, and just excited to be on here and excited to have a nice conversation and talk a little bit about who knows what, right? Who knows where it's going to go. So I'm excited.
Yep, that's the whole way that I like to do it. I don't have a clue what we're going to talk about, and we're already recording it. So let's start off with a little bit about you personally. Tell us a little about yourself, as they say, and we'll kind of roll with it from there, because I've got a whole bunch of questions for you.
Cool. Yeah. So, Jay Bradley. I own the Roof Nuts. I also have a company called Secure Claim. Secure Claim is, I want to say, a supplement company. We're more claim closers. We more focus on the COC and the closing and collecting checks process with Secure Claim. Roof Nuts is more the front end, right? We started as a door-to-door company, and we've turned into a telemarketing company and door-to-door. I still have folks that go door-to-door. And then I get to make enough money with those two that I get to do fun stuff, which is like go train. I just got back from Baltimore. We did a door-to-door free workshop for people in Baltimore. Had a ton of folks, and then we had like 35 people in the room. It's fantastic. And just love to be in this industry. I had chased what this industry can give, which is financial freedom and a lot of success ability. For a long time, I had chased it through the network marketing world, and I was trying to help a lot of people be successful through network marketing, and that didn't really pan out. And I found roofing, and I found that I could help people be successful through roofing, and that's what I get excited about every day. I wake up every day to hopefully help more people learn about this industry, know potentially that they do have control of their own destiny. It's not about anybody else but them. And so I'm just blessed to be able to do what I do. And so that's kind of where we're at and what we do while we do what we do. How about that? There you go.
Yep, I love it. And one thing I forgot to mention, I had an amazing line for the intro. I always try to come up with a really cool intro. I was supposed to say he lives in a home that's completely filled with gnomes, but it was going to sound way cooler in context back then. Never mind, but you guys understand what I'm talking about there. So let's dig in, my friend. First off, welcome to the roofing industry. It's one of those things, like you say, that is absolutely life-changing. And when people find this, they don't tend to leave. They stick around and end up having all the things in life that they want, high blood pressure, low hair count and stuff like that, but also success, like you said.
Gray hair.
Exactly. I wish I had enough hair to show my gray, but mine's more, it's more skin tone at this point, and it's non-existent. But I do want to ask, like you say, network marketing, obviously there's a correlation to what you're doing with the industry here with roofing, but what actually led you into the roofing industry? How did you find your way in, and what did that experience look like for you getting into this craziness?
Yeah, long story short, not to bore anybody, but virtually I was a really good golfer as a kid. I went down to Texas, played golf. You saw that I worked at for the USGA, the 99 US Open at Pinehurst. Did a lot of golf stuff when I was a kid. And I think that's kind of helped me with relationships, right? Because I was the young kid that had to walk up to the group of all the 4 old men and be like, hey, can I play with you guys? I'm 10 years old and walking over to a bunch of 60 and 70-year-olds asking if I could join them to play with them. And so I think that helped me with relationship based. And then what that turned into was going to Mississippi State University on professional golf management, which I was just going to go teach. Love teaching the game of golf, enjoyed that. I was really good as well, but the competition part really wasn't for me. I really enjoyed teaching more than anything else. Went to Mississippi State, and then I learned about the bar business. Got super passionate about the bar business. For me, I'm what I have a test called the life test, and for me, I'm a blue. I want everybody around me to have a good time, to have fun, big smiles on their faces. If I can help put somebody in a good, happy position, then that's what I do. And so, what ultimately happened from there was built this dream at the age of 20 to own a bar. I wanted nothing but that. My laser focus was one day opening a bar. The book The Secret by Rhonda Byrne changed everything for me. Read that book, and she said, whatever you think can come to fruition. My mom had spoke that into my life my entire life as well, but I didn't really understand what she was saying. So at 20, I decided, hey, if I just focus on opening a bar, maybe it will happen. 27, my fiance and I, myself and my best friend opened a 10,000 square foot band venue. We just found an opportunity, kind of fell in our lap. It's amazing when you think about what could happen and what happens. And so we did that. 2007, we opened that bar. 2014, my mom takes sick. My parents had retired down to Gulf Shores, Alabama. By 2016, I'd sold everything in Mississippi and at Mississippi State and moved down to Gulf Shores. Not really a pot to piss in. I had 30 grand in my pocket. Didn't know what I was going to do. I started a company called Aqua Squad RV Detailing because all the snowbirds that went down there, they couldn't wash their own RVs. That went really well during snowbird season, but during the summertime, it kind of fell off. So I answered a random Indeed ad for an insurance claims specialist is what it was. And I answered that Indeed ad, and it turned out it was roof sales. And went to the interview, and the guy said, hey, what we do is inspect roofs, blah, blah, blah. And initially, it was like, hey, man, I'm 350 pounds. I'm not getting on a roof anytime soon. That's not going to happen. He said, that doesn't matter. I've got a production guy. If you can go get the appointments, then, we'll go do it. And so I've always been a team player in that sense where if I'm really good at something, I want to really, really, really dive into it and learn it. So I just got sick. To the point to where like this became a passion of mine, knocking doors. And I just went hard. I went really hard at knocking doors. I studied Adam and Deshaun and Becca and Adam and Deshaun and Becca and Adam and Deshaun and Becca and Adam and Deshaun and Becca. And all their free content, I just dove into it. And so most of the stuff that I teach today is just a regurgitation of what they said, right? I might put it in different terms and I might say it in different ways. And I learned a lot I was in a company called World Ventures Network Marketing back in the day, and I learned a lot through that. Long story short, I knew that if I went and got 25 leads a week, that I would make multi six figures, and that came to fruition. Did that. And just enjoyed the heck out of it, learning it. And then I landed a big commercial deal in Mobile, Alabama, Dolphin Way Baptist Church for anybody that's from Mobile. And turned out we got to the point where we were tearing off the roof and had the shingles in the parking lot. Same time, my mom was in the hospital. OSHA stops by the build. Turns out the owner that I was working for didn't have the right paperwork. Not his fault. Not at all his fault, just didn't understand the game, right? He got into it too early. He's really good at sales. He didn't understand how thick and deep he got into it. And the same day, I lost 33 grand in commission because I lost that church, and my mom passed away. And so my mom being the one that was always the one that was the go-getter, the driver, the one that told me that I could do anything I put my mind to. And my dad also, I want to throw my dad, showing me how success was supposed to be. I decided to start Roof Nuts. I really like knocking doors. So it started really just out of necessity. So we started Roof Nuts, just knocking for people in Mobile, Pensacola, along the coast down there. And one thing led to another. We got a call from Josie Parks, who probably doesn't even know that he gave us our first big break. And Josie said, hey, man, I heard about you guys. Is there any way you can come down to Naples? So we went down there, worked for CMR, and did that, and came back. Grant Rocket gave us another huge break with Apex Roofing and Restoration. And ultimately, we knocked doors, we grew companies, we helped them grow their divisions. And one thing led to another. we started getting nationwide, folks calling us from Beloit, Illinois. I remember, I'll never forget my first phone call from the folks at Apex General Contracting in Beloit, Illinois. And I'm like, you're from where? Like, you heard about us? Like, what are you talking about? And Jim and Brandon and their team at Apex General Contracting said, hey, we've got a big hailstorm up here in Wisconsin. I think it was Appleton at that time. Hey, can you guys come up here and knock for us? So I took a team up there. And it's not like us knocking doors. It's not like we do anything special, but what we're able to do is collapse timeframes for those companies. So normally, where that company might be able to do 300 roofs during that hail claim, we're able to get them to where they can do 600 roofs during that hail claim because their top sales reps are not inspecting, banging. We're doing all the banging. All they're doing is inspecting and closing. And so it showed that we were able to do that. Found out who Sean Meredith was after that first big hit and called Sean. He's been a absolute pleasure to work with. He's been a mentor to us. He's really helped Roof Nuts get launched. If anybody doesn't know who Sean Meredith is, he is Hire a Canvasser, I believe is the name of his company. Sean's the GOAT of this, what I do.
Yep.
Yeah, he's the dude. Everybody's got to have somebody to look up to. Sean, carved the path for us, as far as what Roof Nuts does today for the door-to-door industry. And then about 4 years ago, and that's almost been a decade, starting Roof Nuts. And then about 4 years ago, some of those same customers that we've had for a long time said, hey, Jay, we really like working with you. What else can you do? They knew I had a marketing degree. And I remember back when I was a salesperson, I used to run some telemarketing leads, and I felt like there was a way to challenge the status quo as far as what telemarketing was all about. And, the real pushback on the credits and the, all that stuff. And I wanted to clean all that up. So I went on a mission. It took me about 18 months to find the subcontractors that we use. We're fully subcontracted. I don't mind telling people that. I found a great partner in Mexico to work with. They speak better English than I do, being a country boy from now living in Georgia. Some of my callers speak better English than I do, but started doing that about 4 years ago. Now that's our number one revenue generator is actually doing that. That same time in 2021, we got a call from a couple companies to help them grow their businesses because I had been making some videos on some of the groups. Went and trained a company. That company turned from 6 million to 21 million. And subsequently, I started training companies. Most of our companies are seeing about a 3x growth in 12 to 18 months. And so started making a name for ourselves. And I just surrounded myself with really good people is all I did. I cheated, Chuck. I literally just surrounded myself with people that were way better than I was. And it's turned into what it is today. And I'm super blessed to be here. So hopefully that's not too long. How about
No,
that?
my friend, that is amazing right there. And I'll tell you what, that's how it is for all of us. I mean, I would not be anywhere close to where I'm at if it weren't for the people that I put in my circle. And over the course of time, I've had so many people that have reached out and given advice that have helped. And now I'm doing the same thing for people from the next generation. And what you just told me there really just kind of exemplifies what's so beautiful about this roofing industry is a guy like Sean Meredith. Now, I've never met Sean in person, but I've known of him for over a decade. And, he goes out, he gets these campaigns going all over the United States and does that. And he's kind of got himself in the position of, that's the guy. And here 100%. Comes a new guy in town and says, hey, man, I'm trying to do the exact same thing. I'm trying to be like what you're doing. Common sense would say that the guy would slam the door in your face and say, figure it out, bro. But everybody in this industry, not everybody, but a lot of people in this industry are here for the betterment of the entire thing. And when we see people that are genuine and that really have it in their heart to do the right thing and help for the right reasons, people are willing to teach you things, And to me, I think that's the most cool part about your story getting into the industry is you were, number one, brave enough to reach out to a guy and say, hey, man, I appreciate what you're doing. I've been following you. Like you said, Adam Bensman, Deshaun, Becca Switzer, these are all people that I've had on my podcast, and they're terrific people that put the knowledge out there for people that maybe don't have the money to buy the training. The stuff is free. You can go out and get it. And a lot of people follow that stuff and they find success in this. So that's really a cool story. And we're going to definitely go a little bit deeper into roof nuts, but I do want to ask you something first about the golf, right? I've taken up golf as a hobby. This is one of those things where I got invited 3 years ago. It was 3 years ago last week to the TPC at San Antonio.
Oh, nice.
Well, it sounds great, right?
Yeah.
Infamous. So here's what happens. I hadn't played golf in like 20 years. The last time I played golf, I swore that I was never going to play golf again. I almost got into a fight with the lady that was probably 70-ish years old. Right. And when I say fight, like, you know, if she wouldn't have, you know, I think she was going to clock me, and I was ready to throw my hands up in defense. But I swore I was never going to golf again. It was my dad's golf league. He forced me to be a sub, and I was asked never to return. So fast forward 20 years, I get invited to the PGA course over here, 300 and some people for this giant tournament. And I don't know, it looked really bad. I'm sure I had a great time, but it was pretty embarrassing. So I put my head down and I said, okay, if I'm going to try to be one of these guys, I need to improve. So I spent the last 3 years working on my game, and I guess I've improved a little bit, but I don't know. It's just one of those hobbies. And I kind of want to ask, you know, you said as a young 10-year-old, you're out there playing golf with guys that are 50 and 60. Number one, what sparked your interest in the game at such a young age that inspired you to actually go up and do that? Because I see these kids do it sometimes, but I always wonder, man, like I couldn't do that as a 10-year-old. What was your inspiration to get into that? Was it just the love or just, you know?
Yeah. So my dad was, really good football player. He played for Western Kentucky. He was also a baseball player. He played for the Reds for a little while until a little guy named Johnny Bench came by. And so my dad got cut from there. He was really good at throwing the ball to second base, but he couldn't swing a bat for shit. But, you know, I mean, so what happened was they felt like that – my parents felt like sports was the way, because we were a lower and middle class family. They felt like golf would potentially be the way that I could have a college degree, right? Because back then in the 80s as a child, it was all about the aspiration of the American dream, which now we know is the 40-40-40 plan, right? You work for 40 years of your life for 40 hours a week to hopefully live off 40% of the income you couldn't afford anyway, right? So, but back then that was the dream. So it was about going to college, and everybody had to have a degree and so on and so forth. And so my parents felt like that golf would potentially be the catapult to get me to college. And it ultimately did. It didn't pay for my college, but it got me at least to college. But I think in the background, what people didn't understand was that golf taught me how to be integrity, number one. It taught me how to be self-disciplined. It taught me how to have relationships with people that weren't like me. It taught me how, like, several different things that golf can teach you. So as a child, I just grew up. I mean, I started playing when I was like 3. So I didn't know anything about not playing golf. That was my life. And at the age of 7, I had to make a decision. My parents not made me, but I think my parents knew that you were either going to play golf or you were going to play baseball, one or the other. And they gave me the opportunity to make that decision. And they gave me a year to play both sports. And I really enjoyed golf. It was something that I could wake up every morning. I was lucky that I lived across the street from a municipal course that was a public, muni course, and I could walk across the street and all the old guys with their pool carts and me coming across the street as the little kid and be able to go out and play with those guys. But the interesting thing was I got to listen to the life lessons and the life stories of those guys and the things that they did wrong and the things they wish they could do over again and the things that, those are the moments where I learned that, you don't want to be the guy at your deathbed meeting the guy you could have been. You know what I mean? Like, those are the moments that I really realized that life is what you make of it. And whatever you do, whatever you put in, you get back. And it's not always fair, but as long as you keep going forward, you can do it. I might make a bogey on the first hole, but I might birdie the second hole. So I got to stay optimistic. A lot of people in life, they have a struggle and then they're stuck there and they can't get out of that struggle, and they don't know that all they got to do is tee it up on the next hole and they can make it through. So that was just me. That was my life. So I really didn't know anything different, to be candid with you. And I was really good, Chuck. I was really good. Like I had beat, I'm not going to drop names, but like I got recruited by a team in Waxahachie, Texas. I moved down to Texas to play full time because in Indiana, I was originally from Indiana. You could only play like maybe 3 or 4 months out of the year in high school. In Texas, you play year round. So I got recruited by Waxahachie. Well, I wouldn't say recruited. I got asked to come play at Waxahachie High School. And the funny thing is, that's where all the hates are from. Lee and all those guys are all from Waxahachie.
Oh, a lot of my friends, Rodney Lawson from Tiger Roofing, I just texted him earlier when I saw Waxahachie and asked if he knew you, and he didn't. But yeah, I drove through Waxahachie on Monday this week. I was just there.
The Blevins brothers from Mint Exteriors, who are murdering it, by the way, are killing the game right now. Like all of them are from Waxahachie. I wasn't in the roofing deal back then, but that's where I went. You know, I went and played there, and it was pretty good. I won the district championship, and you could only imagine back in those days who I was playing against, and I was really good. But I enjoyed teaching. I was the guy that, like, if we were at the driving range, we'd be hitting balls. That was okay for me, but like I wanted to drop my club and go help the guy next to me. And I had more fun, opposed to me shooting 66, I had more fun helping the guy that shot 86 shoot 79. And so I think that's part of the reason why I do what I do today, is because I love teaching this industry. I love helping people knock doors. I love helping people change their life, because that's what fills my cup up. That's my thing. And so I guess to get back to your question, I grew up playing it, so I didn't really think anything of it. And really, when Roof Nuts started, from the time that I started Roof Nuts till about a year and a half ago, I didn't play golf. I was laser focused. You know, there was a season of my life that had the opportunity to build something really special, and I took full advantage of it. And that's what a lot of people don't, I think, understand about business and business owners and what it's like to be in business, is that I went a season, and that season was 8 years, 8 hard, grueling years, but I had a vision, and Roof Nuts has turned into somewhat the vision that I had, right? I mean, there's obviously, I wasn't expecting the cold calling part of it. I wasn't expecting to go around and train people, but golf taught me a lot about, like, tee it up again. There's another hole. There's 18 chances of this thing. And if you don't get them in the first 18, tomorrow comes again. You can try it all over again, you know? And so I think that's what a lot of what golf taught me.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. To me, it's been more of a challenge to not get frustrated and not lose my cool. And I put myself out there and I say, okay, you know, just, it's a game. You're supposed to have fun. And I still get kind of, you know, I'm one of those guys, but I was out playing the other day over in actually Crandall, Texas, not far from Waxahachie.
Yeah.
And started off, I drove 5 hours to get there, and I literally jumped out of my car and teed off. So the first couple holes were a little sketchy. I couldn't feel my legs from travel. But once we got going, you know, I realized this is a lot of fun. And the cool thing about it is, like you said, my buddy Rodney, he met me over there. I was doing some work with his company, Tiger Roofing, helping them out for a couple weeks, selling some roofs and doing a little training as well. And he just told me, look, just have fun. That's all this is. Just have fun. And once you remember that that's all it's supposed to be, you can go out and have some fun. So I really appreciate that. And I would like to formally invite you, if you're going to be in San Antonio for IRE next year. We're working on putting together a golf outing, and I'm trying to put a stealth team together so that I can win with my actual skill level being what it is, which is not very good. I won't contribute much, but I want to be on the team that wins. So I'm not going to lie to people. I'm recruiting. I'm asking people to join as well. So we'll talk about that later on. But that's a great story, and I really appreciate what you said about putting yourself around people that are not like you, people that you don't really know, people that have nothing in common. Because what is door knocking, dude? I mean, you don't know what you're going to get when you hit the door. It could be any number of things. And I think that does prepare you in ways that, you know, just standard school and things like that never could. For me, my parents owned a convenience store when I was a little boy. And I used to buy 12 packs of soda for like $3 or whatever it was back in the day. And I'd go outside and I'd sell them for 50 cents a piece, and I'd double my money. and I'd make, a couple grand over the course of the summer. And I think that's what kind of inspired me as well. And you've got to go out there and you've got to be willing to talk to strangers, and you've got to be willing to say, hey, here's who I am, because there are a lot of talented people, not just in this industry, but in the world, who never get to show their talent because they just don't, they're not willing to put themselves out there. And honestly, I don't have that many skills. I've been doing it for a long time, but I'm willing to put my face out there so people recognize and say, hey, that's the roofer. And I wanted to ask you about that because I love your video content. You do some hilarious stuff. I love the one that you had yesterday or the day before where you're in Baltimore and you're like, man, doing a training and nobody shows up and it's an empty room. You're like, psych! And you got the full house. Tell me a little bit about some of the stuff that you do there and what kind of inspired you to be that active, I guess, that creative when it comes to that, because a lot of it doesn't have to do with the business. It's more just getting to know you as a guy. What's the inspiration? Is it just another, hey, this is who I am and I want y'all to see?
So the video part of this whole thing, I'll go back to what I was initially, right? So when I first started Roof Nuts, I would make these little videos, and people may or may not remember back in the 2000 and maybe 16, 17, 18, 19, somewhere around there. I would make videos about my daily life of going and knocking doors. Like I would make little videos and I put them on the roofing groups. And for me, what that served was, number one, it held me accountable socially to people, because I would make a video and I would talk about what just happened at the door, and I would discuss how I handled it and how I probably could have handled it better, or if I was able to overcome it, how I was able to overcome it. And I wasn't doing that for any reason outside of, I think, because I do like to help people. Hopefully it helps somebody. But then there was this moment where there was this social accountability as well. So I was making those videos to say, like, for me, I didn't have a cheerleader, and I'm a very blue type person in the sense that I like to have people. I'm a words of affirmation person. How about that? Right? The love languages. I'm a love of affirmation person. And so when I would make those videos and somebody would say, hey man, that helped me close a deal, or hey man, that helped me get an inspection, or hey man, that helped me. I used to share those videos all the time. Now, the people in the roofing groups now don't let me share those videos like I used to, because, I guess I'm competition for them and they've sold it off to somebody, whatever. But I would, for about 4 years there, I was sharing these videos, and I wasn't doing it for any reason outside of like just trying to be part of the community and helping. And then at the same time, it was helping me get my words of affirmation in that I needed to work, and it would help me get out of the truck at the end of the day, like whatever it takes to get you out of the truck. That's what it's all about. And so started making those. And then we got into the telemarketing world. And when we got into telemarketing, there's some amazing people, right? You got Mr. Reed, you got, Jack, you got, a ton of just amazing people. Nick Cabe, or I'm going to say Nick's name wrong. You got Jason, CLS, you got these amazing people that are out there. But for a majority of the telemarketing folks that we either buy from or see in the industry, they're kind of like dark, hidden people that people don't talk to. And so I thought that I enjoyed making the videos because obviously it fills both cups for me. Hopefully I can help people and I can get words of affirmation. But then at the same time, I didn't want to be the little sneaky, little scary lead generator guy. Like, I didn't want to be that dude. I wanted to be the guy that said, hey man, we generate you leads. They're not the best in the world. I can go ahead and tell you right now, my door-to-door leads are 10 times better than my telemarketing leads, and always will be. There is no question. But if you can close 2 out of the 10 of my telemarketing leads, you're going to make money. If you can close 3 out of 10, you're going to print money. And so I want people to realize that I'm a real dude, that I'm not trying to be shady, or I'm not trying to get one over on anybody. I want to help you get on more roofs. And then if that's able to utilize my call center to do so, then all the more better. And so TikTok really helped me with being able to just get out there, because TikTok was so easy. I could just hit the little plus button and I could say whatever was on my mind, and then I could post it and not really think about it. Like before that, it was like you hit the record button And when you recorded, it had to go to your phone. Then you had to upload it to Facebook. And if you question anything about what you said or what you were doing, there was a moment of like, self-doubt. And you're like, well, do I really want to post it? I mean, there were some probably really good videos in the past that I didn't upload because there was a moment of insecurity that I had or a moment of whatever. But when TikTok came out and had the plus button, I didn't do Instagram. I know most people my age probably did Instagram. I didn't do Instagram. So for me, TikTok was the thing where I could just push the button, say what I felt and what I meant at that point in time. And then I was like, screw it. Whatever they think of me, that's what they think of me. And, people's opinion of you, I just put this out yesterday in a TikTok, matter of fact, like people's opinion of you doesn't have to be your reality. Just keep pushing. Who cares, right? At the end of the day, it was funny because on TikTok and Facebook, it's funny. I had an ad out for roof nuts. And my marketing guy was like, dude, I don't know, but we just need something shocking in the first 3 seconds. And I was like, okay. And I was on the back porch at my house and I was like, what can be shocking? Like, what's different about me than everybody else? And I went, oh yeah, I got gray hair and we do old school shit. So if you ever see the ad, it'll be running for another 7 days and then we're going to cut it off. But literally the ad's literally like, hey, yeah, I'm the gray-headed guy. We do old school stuff. We get you on the roof. That's what we do. Like there's nothing special about what's going on. And there was a guy that was like, his name's David. I won't forget him. He put, well, what's up with these guys on these ads wearing plain shirts? And so I put on there, I'm like, hey, David, my name's Jay Bradley. That shirt is actually from one of the most baller apple orchards in all of Georgia, in Blue Ridge, Georgia, Mercer Apple Orchard. By the way, if you ever come to Georgia, you got to go to Mercer. And, so please respect the shirt. I want people to see my personality. That's who I am. Like a lot of people will take haters and they're like, oh, screw you, whatever. And I'm like, I want to show that hater that I'm a real person, that I'm just like they are. I put the pants on the same way they do. I'm just a dude that has a good time, loves life, and wants to help you out. That's all it is. And so, at the end of the day, that's where the videos come from. That's me. That's reality. A lot of the stuff that you see it's just me, man. And I think TikTok really has helped me understand that I'm okay being me, right? I grew up as a fat kid that was dyslexic, that went to the learning disability classes, that had an unbelievable mom and dad that told me I could be anybody I wanted to be and I could do anything I wanted to do. And subsequently, at the same time, they hated their life, their job. They loved life, showed me how to live life, but they hated their jobs. And so I think between those two things is what got me to where I am, because it was like, they don't like working for somebody else because somebody else controls them. So, okay, number one, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And then number two, here's how do you live life. And this is how you love life. And this is how you love on people. And then they taught me that, number two. And then that was what I do. Now I just pour into people. I love them. I mean, I can't tell you how much free training I do when people call me. There's a guy today. He's in New Mexico. I can't really help him. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. We don't know. But I poured into him for an hour of like knowledge and helping him out. He's new to the industry. He doesn't know what's going on. He went from solar to roofing, and there's a lot of things that he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand the pitfalls because somebody sold him on the dream. And, and so hopefully I helped him out. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it's just me at the end of the day. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. That answers the question perfectly. And I think that's the greatest thing about what we have with social media. And I get people that say the same thing. And it's like, you know what? I realized a couple years ago that it doesn't matter what other people think. I could not care any less. I used to be consumed by that. And now it's like, dude, I do not give a damn whatever you guys have to say. I block people sometimes, but sometimes I keep them around because I actually am entertained by that. And the most successful post I had was some drunken guy from wherever was talking all kinds of crap, and it just kept going and going and going and going. And I got a Facebook check for like $150 for this post. And I thought, haters, dude, they fuel your algorithm. And the reality is they're mad because they're not doing what you're doing, and they know that they can't. So
it's the Kyle Busch effect. It's the Kyle Busch effect, right? Everybody hates Kyle Busch, but everybody wants his money at the same time.
Exactly. And that's, hey, when you're at the top, that's all you can do is look down. Everybody else is trying to shoot for you. So I love it. And I do want to talk a little bit more about roof nuts for sure. And I got some other funny stuff to talk about down the road here. But with roof nuts, okay, you've given us your history getting in. You love the teaching. You took some of the best training from the best in the industry and put yourself out there. Now, when you start going out and doing door knocking in roofing, something you're not experienced in at this point, something you're just kind of getting yourself in, tell me a little bit about those early stages going out and doing that, because to me, that is the absolute worst thing that someone in the roofing world that's not 100% confident, that's not 100% all in, has the hardest time with. Did you just go all in from the very beginning, or did you have struggles? Were there times during this early stages where you thought, I could teach people how to sell other things? Door to door for roofing it's a different animal.
So I'm going to tell that in two parts, right? First part is door to door. I had done door to door in college. I had done that in a different way though. So I used to play the game Risk back in the day, if you remember Risk.
Oh yeah.
So I used to play with the police officers in Starkville, Mississippi. I used to play Risk with them. One of them is very predominant now in the world in Starkville. But I used to play Risk with them, and so because of that, if I was at a party that people were throwing, the police officers wouldn't just start arresting people. They would give us a couple warnings because I was there. So I started leveraging that a little bit in my world. And so what I would do is, if you wanted to throw a party in my apartment complex, folks would come to me and say, hey, Jay, I want to throw a party, and we know you need to be there. So what does that look like? And so what I would do is say, hey, look, you don't worry about anything. All you need to do is take all your personal items, put them all upstairs, because they were all duplexes, or not duplexes, but two-story. I would say, put all your personal items upstairs. Make sure that the radio downstairs has the newest Nelly CD playing on repeat. And I'll take care of the rest of it. And what I would do, I would go around to all the apartments. There was 428 apartments, and I would collect money from all of the people that were in the apartment complex. And I would take that money. And by the way, if you gave money to me, you got a yellow cup, right? This is part of the reason I got in the bar business, by the way. But you got a yellow cup. And if you didn't put any money in, you got a red cup. So I would just go around. I would collect money, and I was collecting $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 in a weekend. And what I would do is I would pay the office ladies $250 to say hush hush. I would buy all the alcohol for the party, and then I would give $250 to the residents of that apartment for back then you could rent the little steamer and all that stuff to clean the carpet with and all that back in the day from Walmart or Lowe's or wherever. And so they had to clean the apartment. That was part of the deal. They had to, do certain things that I asked them to do. And I would buy 4 Jaegers and I would buy 2 kegs. And that was what it was. So my expense on it was $250 to the office people, $250 to the people that own the apartment, 4 Jaeger bottles, and 2 kegs, which grand total maybe was around $750 to $800. So anything above and beyond that I would sell, I would actually keep. Well, the parties were really cool because people would show up with their yellow cups, and all the girls knew that those were the guys that chipped in for the party, right? So they were gravitating towards those guys.
Perks. I love it.
Right. And so on and so forth. So we had built that, and that's actually how I ended up getting the bar business. Anyway, we'll go past that. But whenever we moved to Gulf Shores and I left everything I was in Starkville as being the bar owner and the guy that other people saw as successful, I didn't really have a pot to piss in. Kim and I pretty much started life over, and bless her, she's amazing. She's my right-hand person. She's my ride or die. She's everything. And so, she was working hard at restaurants, making money, making ends meet for us, because I saw this roofing deal and had a little dream. And I asked the guy when I went to the roofing thing, I said, hey, man, what does it take for me to make $100,000 a year? And he said, well, if you get 15 leads a week, right, you're going to make $100,000 a year. And so I knew that the way that I was doing it was I had to get 25, because the way my pitch was, I would say, hey, we're in the area. Some folks are qualifying for a new roof right here. And what's happening is in the next 24 to 48 hours, I've got an inspector that's coming through that really knows the insurance game. He's going to jump on your roof, take a few photos, and he's going to get back with me and let me know what the condition of your roof is. And then I'm going to jump back over to you and let you know the condition of it. And if it looks like you qualify, we'll sign you up. We'll file a claim. We'll do all that. Well, that was a long stretch, right? That's a long sale. That's a whole lot. So I knew there would be some attrition, some churn in the back end. So I made this deal that said, that I wanted to get 25. That was it. 25 was the number. And you're from Ohio. I don't know if you've ever been around Culver's. Have you ever seen a Culver's? Do you know what Culver's ice cream is?
There's a Culver's in San Antonio. Absolutely. I know
Okay.
all about Culver's. Yeah. I used to be fat back in the day. I know
There
all
you go.
about
Okay.
it.
Perfect. Okay. So back in the day, Culver's, I would go there every other day and get the one scoop of the custard with the caramel and the nuts on it. Okay. And so I just loved it. There was nothing about Culver's I didn't like. I would step over somebody's grave to get the Culver's ice cream. Okay. At that time. And I knew that to go get 25 leads in a week was going to be virtually impossible, right? From what most people's standards are. Everybody in the office would be like, 25 a week, that's crazy. There's nobody that's ever going to get 25 a week. Like, you just can't go do that. Not in Mobile, Alabama, right? We didn't have a hailstorm. There wasn't a hurricane. There wasn't anything. And I had to pick roofs that had damage because if I was picking new roofs, I wasn't going to convert. So what I decided to do was I said, look, I'm not going to eat Culver's until I get 25 a week. And I mean, Culver's is like, I'm pretty sure it's next to being to like sitting next to Jesus, I think himself. Like Culver's, there's just something about Culver's that just changes everything in your mindset, your life, and your well-being, right? And so the first week I sat out, I was like, I'm going to get 25 and I'm not going to eat Culver's this week until I get 25. And I call it tricking the idiot, right? I needed to trick the idiot, the fat kid on one side, to the guy that knew that I could be successful on the other side. So I had to talk this guy into saying, we're going to hold off on what you're doing because this guy needs to have a little bit of time. So the first week that I decided to do that, 8 p.m., I mean, it was dark outside. I'm in Mobile, Alabama. I got the 25th lead at 8 p.m. I drove 45 minutes back to my house to Culver's. I didn't stop past go. I didn't collect $200. I got in the drive-through and I got my Culver's ice cream very first week. Okay. Then what subsequently happened from there was I knew that if I got better, I could get to the ice cream faster. And what it really is in the background is a short-term win for a long-term goal is really what it is. I didn't know it at the time. That wasn't something I was thinking. I didn't think about all that stuff. I just was like, screw it. I want ice cream. I don't care what it takes. Well, the second week, I get it at like, 5 p.m. on Friday. And then I get it at like noon on Friday the week after. And then I get it Thursday at 3 o'clock. And then I hit 25 on Wednesday. And then for 2 weeks in a row, I get 13 on Monday, 12 on Tuesday. And then I get 12 on Monday, 13 on Tuesday. And I went, man, I might be onto something. This might be something that I could really show people because you don't climb Mount Everest by taking one step. You climb Mount Everest by a series of small steps. But at the same time, you've got to make a decision, right? I think the Greek mythology or whatever behind decision is to cut away from. There is no other option. You have to do it, and you have to make a decision to do so. And so I made a decision that all I wanted was the ice cream. You know what I mean? I knew that that's what I wanted, and I would just go get 25. And so that's why I kind of trained today is like, I don't care what you say at the door. People talk about, well, my company didn't train me and I didn't do this and blah, blah, blah. Who the hell? I didn't even know. Chuck, I'm 4 weeks into this thing and I don't even know what a 3-tab is versus an architecture. But I sold $220,000 in my first month, sold $240,000 in my second month, sold almost $300,000 in my third month if I wouldn't have lost the big commercial deal, right? Because it wasn't about that. It was about me having a relationship with the person that answered the door, me helping them out because they needed a roof, and then me really in the background wanting the damn Culver's ice cream. That was all it was. And so now when I go and train people, I really try to get them to focus on what is it that you want, right? So subsequently, through all of this, the Culver's ice cream has then turned into a backyard for my dogs. And then it turned into a truck that I wanted, my Platinum Expedition. It turned into just other things. And as you go through, the ice cream turns into bigger things. And now for me, I want to be able to affect the most people in this industry that I can in a economical way. In other words, I want to do free training across the country. And next year we're launching something. We'll talk about it at some point in time, and hopefully maybe I can come back and share that with you. But I spoke to a few people that are on board with me. Michael Stearns, I know you've had, that's willing to put back in the industry. I'm willing to do it. I want to go instead of this, and there's nothing wrong with anything with RoofCon. There's nothing wrong with the roof processing conference. There's nothing wrong. They have to pay the bills to have those big buildings. Ultimately, what I would love to do is to put on free trainings across the country where I can not touch the owners necessarily, but I can touch the one guy that needs this for his family more than anybody else.
Yes, sir. And I'll tell you what, that is the most rewarding thing. I get to do that myself quite a bit. I have a mentor, Mike Code, and Mike takes me with him a couple times a year. I get to go to Oklahoma. I've been to Georgia. I've been over to Ohio. I've been all over, and I get to teach some of the young people in the industry. I told you I was just working over there in Kaufman, Texas with my friends at Tiger Roofing. They hired a young man. I was just over there helping my buddies out because they were building a new office, and they hire a young kid, and it's like, well, hey, let me train this guy up. Let me teach him a little bit about what I know from this and that. And when you get the people that call you and say, hey, I need your advice, that to me is worth more than any paycheck I've ever gotten. And I'm just like you, Jay, when it comes to this. I remember I was a sales rep about maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago, whatever, before I got into this other side of the deal that I'm in now. And the owner of the company got really upset with me one day because I said something in the car that he, I think, understood differently than what I meant. And I think he thought that I was conceding competition. But I told him, I hope that this other guy wins the Salesman of the Year award rather than me, because I'd won it the year before. I understand what I can do. But this was a guy that I had literally met the day that he came into the industry. We went to a Amarillo, Texas hailstorm in 2012 and stayed in a camper together, myself and this guy. And he was a retired DPS officer, a guy who'd already had a full career and was just getting into it. And he was so committed that he went there. And I told him, I'll teach you whatever I can about this. And years later, the dude became my boss. It was kind of funny. He ended up overtaking me at the company there, but I thought it was so cool because I said I would like for him to be the guy that wins, because I remember sitting in this camper at like 2:00 in the morning explaining why our workmanship warranty won't work with a hail claim. Like, that's how little the guy knew. And it was so rewarding to see that, because he did win it, and I felt so good. I'd rather cheer for other people than cheer for myself. I get it. I know that I can do what I can do, and to me, that's not the point of this anymore. So I really appreciate your perspective on that. And I'm like you. If I could find a way to go out and do the trainings more often, I would do that. The roofing would be a secondary thing, 100%. I would do that as much as I can. And, I think that's very noble. I like the fact that you want to go out and do it for free to help as many people as you can, because a lot of people that really need it, they can't afford $1,000 ticket to go to the conference. They can't afford the plane fare. They can't afford all that. So you're filling a need for the people that are probably historically getting discouraged and leaving because they don't get that encouragement. They don't get the training. You get thrown out there. And in some cases, I think no training on door-to-door is better, because some of the stuff that they teach is make your brain explode. But I think that's awesome. And I definitely am looking forward to seeing how you continue to evolve with it. A question directly related.
You got an open invitation to any of my trainings whenever we go. We're going to go to 4 to 6 cities next year. We're going to put it together. Just talked to Mike today. Mike's on board. I was on his bike. Mike's a great guy, and I know he wants to give back just like I do. And so, if it looks like one of those events you can make it to, you got a spot anytime on my stage, brother.
Oh man, accepted for sure. I'm one of those guys. I love to go out and do that. And it's friends helping other friends in the industry. And then like you said, you get to meet some of the coolest people. You get to hear some great stories about how people have gotten into it, some of the things that they've struggled with. A couple questions I wanted to ask you now. The first one is going to be some of your success stories that you've had. Obviously, you've got to have some success stories in order to be able to continue moving forward and not be called out as a fake guru and all the stuff that our industry loves to do.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of the people that you've got to meet in your experiences so far that have maybe, started off very, very timid, maybe not knowing as much as they possibly should in order to get into the industry, but have turned the corner because of your help and have become success stories in our industry. Tell me about a couple of those. And you can specify by name. I love calling out people that are successful.
Yeah. So I think that, so when I very first, I think there's a cheat mode here a little bit because I had been successful in business before I got to the roofing industry. So a lot of the stuff where people see me as just entering the market, they didn't understand the things I had done in my past as far as, learning business and learning things. And Grant, whenever he called from Apex, Grant Rocket, he's a troll on this social media. He's so funny, but really at the end of the day, he's a great guy. He's somebody I look up to. He's significantly younger than I am, but somebody that you can look at that had a vision, that set a goal, and that went and did it. Whenever he came calling, I had just helped a company called Ice Restoration out of Foley, Alabama. They had been doing about 12 claims roughly a month, and they kind of hired Roof Nuts as a consultant. We were doing consulting back then, and we got them to about 78 claims a month in that lower Alabama area. And that's pretty much when Grant gave us a shout. And then, we helped him and we grew a couple of Grant's locations, and that was great. He gave us a great opportunity and helped us out a ton. Hopefully helped him. I think he went from 60 to 120 while we were helping him, and that was a big deal. And hopefully he'll give us a little bit of credit for helping him in that scenario. I know he had some other great people, so there's no way I'd ever take advantage, take credit for that. I think our first big break was Humboldt Roofing and Restoration. Dean and Katie Franklin gave us a call, and Dean said, "Hey man, I've been watching your videos." He'd been watching a bunch of the videos that I was making, just for me at the end of the day on the roofing groups, and said, "Hey man, I love what you're saying. I love what you're doing. Do you train?" And at the time, I really wasn't training. I wasn't doing anything. And he was like, "What do you charge?" I'm like, "Oh, I have no idea." So
that's the best question right there, isn't it? I've had people call me and ask me that, and I'm like, "I don't know. What do you want to give me, dude? Buy me lunch."
So I come up with a number, and then I had what was called the Roof Nuts program, and the Roof Nuts program has evolved since then. But what we had been implementing was a Roof Nuts program in a lot of companies, and so we implemented the Roof Nuts program, and we took them from roughly 6 to 21. And when I say that, Chuck, I need you to understand that I just did the frame, like I just showed them what we did, and
they did the work.
They took it and ran way bigger than I ever thought they would. They ended up getting purchased by Perimeter, and Roofer X now is what it is. But I think the last year that Dean was in charge, they did around 24. So that was about a year and a half to 2 years after we had left them that they did 24 from 6. And Dean, unbelievable leader. That guy, you think about somebody that's doing that kind of numbers, and you wouldn't think he'd be waking up every day going and knocking doors. That guy knocks more doors than anybody I've ever met in my entire life. He wakes up every day, and he'll go knock the door, and then he'll hand it to one of his people. And he loves his people so much. And I think that's important for owners out there today to understand that if you help enough people around you achieve what they're wanting, you will ultimately get what you want, right? And there's so many owners that just are in it for themselves that it's finding the fine balance between pushing dare bears up trees and being too selfish is the really tough part for owners these days. Like, I love this guy, but he's not putting in the work he needs to put in. And I love this gal, and I want to be able to give her as much as possible because she is putting in the work, and so on and so forth. So finding that fine balance. And yeah, I mean, most of the companies we've touched here the last little bit, they 3x within the about 18 months. It's about what we're seeing on average is them 3x. And there's an amazing company in North Carolina, ATW, all the way roofing. I mean, listen, Natalie and Will are two of the most amazing leaders I've ever met in my entire life. And that's really what it takes, right? Are the people that are leading the organization, are they educating themselves on how to be better people? Like, there's so many people so many roofing owners that are really good salespeople that turn into roofing owners that don't understand that it's not about sales. Like, once you want to grow an organization, you don't sell roofs anymore. You sell people on the dream of roofing sales, and then you help facilitate that. You don't just sell roofs anymore. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I fight, because I'm brutally honest with my owners. I don't sugarcoat it, because here's the thing. I make money from roof nuts. And when they have me, it's 3 days for $7,500. Like, I'm not very expensive to have me out. And by the way, you got me for a year, right? If you buy one of my trainings, I charge the $7,500 because I've got to charge something, right? Like, at the end of the day, that's fairly cheap as far as the training world goes. So I can be honest. If I charged you $25,000 and I was relying on you to keep being a customer, and I had to, wine and dine you, then I can't be honest with you. But paying me $7,500 is not going to change my life, not at all. And if you bring me in, it shouldn't change your life either, except for the better. And so that's why I've made the price where I do when I train companies. I put it at $7,500. That's at least what I feel like I'm worth, per hour. And so at the end of the day, seeing a lot of these companies and seeing the growth, the ones that I've had wild, crazy good success with are people that are willing to pour into themselves to become better leaders and understand that it's not about everybody else. Literally, there's one company that we've pretty much flipped everybody. It's hopefully Justin and Rob don't mind me saying this, but Economy Restoration up in Maryland, like, we've literally flipped their entire sales team, and they're better today than they were yesterday. And it's because they're amazing leaders. They have amazing leaders in the office. They have great admin. They have unbelievable structure, and they pour into themselves every day. They make sure that they're better every day, because if they're better every day, it kind of spills over to their people. So, and we're seeing them grow, and we're seeing them grow in a big way. I just got back from there, and just excited to see their future, and excited to see where they're going. And, we've been working with them for about 2 years now, and I'm not going to give you exact numbers, but I know they've grown really, really well. So it's super, super proud of those guys. Those guys are amazing. There are people, and here's the thing. I think when I leave a place, in my head, when I get on the airplane, I go, is that somebody I would work for? Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like, absolutely. Is that somebody me? Because when somebody like me comes in their path, are they ready for me? Right? And those guys are ready for me. ATW's ready for me. Humboldt Roofing's ready for me. DG Roofing in Austin's ready for me. These people are ready for somebody like me to come across their path. Now they just need to luck up and have a few people like me come across their path, and there'll be huge companies. So hopefully that answers
that's it right there. And the moral of the story is leadership is what sets the example across the board. Yep. And the people that are the most successful in anything are the ones that are willing to go in and do the work, continually improve upon themselves on a daily basis. And that segues me right into the next topic I'd like to discuss. Now, I did say it was going to be about an hour, and we're at 59 minutes right now, and I got like 8 more things I want to ask. So
I still have like a little bit more drink to go. So let's go.
All right, I don't want to take too much of your time, but I do have a couple more things. So
no, you got me forever, brother.
All right. Well, hey, we might end up doing a podcast together before it's all said and done. I think this is pretty cool. So, door knocking. I always like to ask people that specialize in door knocking, tell me about the worst homeowner that you've ever experienced knocking on a random door. Mine was a guy not too long ago in Austin, Texas. I was working with a company, A5 Roofing, and I was setting a great example of what not to do because a guy said a couple words that I didn't really like. And me, the example setter, kind of had a little bit of a blow up, and there was a little bit of a scenario. So I know it happens to the best of us. Have you ever had anybody threaten you? You ever had anybody come chasing you with no clothes on? You ever had anybody throwing bricks at you? What's the worst deal you've had in door-to-door roofing sales? Because roofing is a different beast.
So I think you know me enough by now that I'm going to take the bad and turn it into the good, right? And
of course.
So the worst thing I've ever had happen is a gun pulled on us, right? So the gun, we were in Mobile, Alabama. We're knocking at a fairly nice neighborhood, and I had this gentleman out for his first day, right? We're out knocking doors.
Welcome to the jungle, baby.
Oh man, his very first door he knocks, I go up with him, and he had done Cutco in the past, so he kind of knew door to door.
He's had guns pulled on him before, absolutely.
Well, yeah, he never had a gun pulled on him, but he had been in the position. But this particular gentleman had a bad run in life. He was living out of his car at the Walmart in Daphne, Alabama, and probably has taught me. He's taught me a lot in life as far as like not worrying about whatever people think about you or whatever else. But when I came up to him, he was living in his PT Cruiser in Daphne, Alabama, in the Walmart parking lot, and perseverance and everything else. So when I picked him up from the Walmart in Daphne to like go out for his first day, and in my head, I'm thinking, I'm going to take this guy out, and he's probably going to have a negative attitude and whatever else. And I really didn't know much about him. I knew that he was a cook at one of the restaurants that was in town and whatever. Long story short, we go knock the door, and this guy pulls a gun. Like he had a gun like right next to his hip, and it's the very first door we knocked for the day. And we were like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen? And we're like, hey, sir, we were just in the area. We're just doing some pre-roof inspections, whatever else. And the guy's like, get off my property. And so Josh, his name's Josh, and Josh was like, hey, man, no worries. Hey, listen, you don't worry about anything. We don't worry about anything. We're just going to act like we weren't even here. And we walked back to the truck, and Josh, who virtually is homeless at this point in time, goes, all right, Jay, so which one do we knock next? And just didn't even let it phase him. And that was the first time I've ever had a gun pulled on me. I've been knocking for roofs for a couple of years at that point. And like, I'd never had a gun pulled on me before. That was the first time for me. And so like, I was like freaking out. And Josh, who's the homeless guy, is like, yeah, all right, which one do we hit next? And I'm like, oh, okay. All right, cool. Here we go. Whatever. And, long story short, Josh worked for Roof Nuts for a long time. We got him into a house, and now he's paying bills and doing well. And I think he's working in Biloxi, Mississippi. He's not with us any longer, but turned into amazing stuff. But I think if he wouldn't have acted as cool, calm, and collective as I did, I probably would have freaked out a little bit more and been more worried about knocking the next door. But he was like so ambitious about knocking the next door. I was like, well, screw it. Let's go hit another one. You know what I mean? So
what's the worst that could happen? You get shot? I mean, come on, right?
Yeah.
We've seen the lowest of the low on moment one. So it can literally only go up from there. And that's an awesome story. I'm glad that everybody survived, and feel bad for the homeowner. Anybody that approaches a door like that has got some problems, but whatever. We'll just pretend we weren't here, sir. Have a nice day. Then I got two more things I want to cover.
Yeah, okay? For sure. No, I'm good.
This to me is the most interesting thing, and maybe
by the way, it's 7 p.m. while we're counting this, so that's why I'm having a drink. By the way,
it is 7 p.m. It's 7 a.m., ladies and gentlemen. In reality, Jay's just waking up and drinking. That's what we do here. It's 7 o'clock somewhere, right? But
I would have never been successful in the bar business if I did that.
Well, there you go, and that's a very valid statement. Believe me, you own a bar, so I understand. I look at your resume here, and everything on here is awesome. We've talked about golf. We've talked about Mississippi State. We've talked about your bar business. We've talked about Roof Nuts. We've talked about Secure Claim. But there's something on here that really caught my eye.
Uh-oh.
Former radio co-host at Bully Barkline. So this whole podcast thing for me is like, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and
Right.
I used to watch the Howard Stern show on the E channel before I was old enough to be able to really watch that. And a lot of this whole thing is based 100% on that. Once we got to the era where some dumbass roofer could just start a podcast and like show up every week for 3.5 years, and then somehow it just becomes a real thing. Tell me a little bit about this, because I've always dreamt of having a radio show, of being on like live, taking phone calls. And I'm going to do that with the roofing world before too long. But tell me how you get into that. Tell me a little bit about that experience, because that is very cool.
Yeah, so it came out. It was very organic the way it happened. So I was the DJ for Mississippi State Athletics, which meant like if you went to a SEC football game, if you went to the football game, I was the DJ. I played the music in the stadium. I did all that, and so I was around the media, up in the press box and all that. And there was a gentleman. Man, golly, I'll never remember his name. Jonathan. I can't remember his last name, but he approached me and said, "Hey, man, I've got this simulcast deal with another gentleman named Gene Swindoll. And Gene needs a co-host for Bully Barkline. Virtually what Bully Barkline was a radio sports show about Mississippi State athletics. And I was originally from Indiana and Kentucky. I was a big basketball person. Gene was more of the football. I couldn't tell you. Like, the only reason I know what a reverse wishbone is because Vanderbilt ran it last week to beat Alabama. You know what I mean? I don't know much about that, but I can tell you what a 2-1-3 is, and you know what I mean. Like, I'm a basketball guy, and they knew I was from Indiana and I had a big basketball background, and so they said, "Hey, man, you know, obviously they love my voice and they wanted me to do that, and they were like, you know, you're a big personality, and they felt like they could get sponsors behind it." And then I was like, well, Cowbells would love to sponsor. So we sponsored the deal too. And we actually held it live at Cowbells. And it was myself and another buddy of mine named Jeff and Gene. And it was simulcast over 46 stations across Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, Florida. And we just did Bully Barkline. Pretty much we were just talking about Mississippi State sports at the end of the day. And we had a blast with it. It was fun. It was like a 1-hour show, and we just kind of talk the good, bad, and the indifferent. And what actually happened with that, I think, you know, I'm a straight shooter a little bit, and so I got called into the office a couple of times with some stuff that I'd said because I still worked for the university, you know, doing their stuff and
questioning the play call and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And so it was like, you know, but I told everybody, look, you know, and it's just like Roof Nuts, right? The reason I can be as candid with the owners as possible is because Roof Nuts pays my bills. The owners that hire me for training don't pay my bills. And I think that's a good thing, honestly, at the end of the day, right? Because I can be honest with you. I'm going to tell you the good, bad, the ugly. And with Mississippi State, it was like, hey, look, I could sugarcoat shit and I could tell you like what you want to hear, but I'm just not going to do it. Like, if I'm going to be candid, I'm putting my name on it, I'm going to tell you what I think. And so, yeah, there was some sketchy moments like me. You know, I remember walking to the LSU game in like 2011 or so. We were playing LSU at home and walking by who now is I think Greg Byrne is at Alabama. And I walked by Greg Byrne, who was our athletic director at the time. And Greg just kind of looked at me and shook his head. And I was like, sorry, you know, the truth hurts sometimes, you know, and whatever else. And so, you know, it's just one of those deals where we just had a blast. It just came in organically into my lap, and I took it and ran with it, and we had a really good time. And we did that for about 4.5 years, I think, maybe 5, and you know, just had a great time with it. It was a way for us to meet. It was a way for us to reach out to the Mississippi State community, who, by the way, is like, it's like being a Cowboys fan or a Cubs fan until they won the World Series. But, you know, like, I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm a Cubs fan, and I'm a Mississippi State fan. So back in the day, I used to tell everybody, like, I'm just a glutton for punishment. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, like, you know, so it was really cool, but we enjoyed it.
Heck yeah, dude. And I'm hoping for that opportunity to fall into my lap. I tried to sign up to be an announcer for like simulated racing and stuff. They have iRacing and these guys run. And I was like, dude, let me be the track announcer. I love racing. I could do all that. I can do, but I never got the chance. I did get to do one time, just very randomly, a voiceover for a concrete company over in Pennsylvania somewhere. And it was the strangest thing. Just this guy put a post up saying, hey, we want someone to do a commercial. I tried out for it and I did it. And hey, who knows, dude? My voice I thought was pretty bad, but the microphone kind of made me sound majestic that day. And I could say I've been a voiceover actor. Now I've got a guy who was also a former sportscast talk show radio guy on, which that's pretty awesome. So
I did a lot of that. I've seen you with pictures from NASCAR. So we used to, do you know what an ARCA is? Do you know the
Absolutely.
Okay. So my dad and I used to do marketing for an ARCA team out of Henryville, Indiana, Daryl Basham. And so ARCA we used to go to ARCA. I used to have my hard card for ARCA, and I love all things NASCAR, man. I can't find hardly anybody that loves NASCAR. And a matter of fact, just throwing this out there, I just won tickets to Bowman Gray for next year for the Clash. So I got 4 tickets for that. I called my dad today and let him know, and I got to call my brother tomorrow and let him know. And so I'm super excited to go to Bowman Gray for the Clash. It's going to be wild. So
the Madhouse, I love it. I've been down there. I lived in Charlotte for a few years, and I am going to have, now this has been agreed upon for a little while now, but my favorite race car driver of all time is Jeremy Mayfield. And you talk about ARCA, Jeremy was in there for a long time. Well, he's from
Kentucky, so I know Jeremy very
well. I know of absolutely. Him, right? Yeah. And when he was off racing for a little while, the little deal with NASCAR, which none of that I believe was true at all. I believe it was all fake. I've seen 100%. And I've been around the guy, and I know personally
NASCAR, that was all NASCAR's fault. 100%. That was all they were trying to cover their own self like that. Yeah. 100%.
It was a personal vendetta, and Brian France ended up passed out at a stoplight in Charlotte, North Carolina, and his own family booted him from the business. So it is what it is, but I'm planning on having Jeremy on the podcast after he wins the Grand National Super Series championship this Saturday. So that's kind of cool. I've been a race fan for 25 plus years. I've traveled all over the country. I've been to all the big races. I've never been to Daytona, but I've been to everything else. And
let's go to Daytona. You and we're going to go together. I love it. You know what? I hated Daytona until they put the escalators in. Now that the escalators are there, let's go.
Let's do it, right? I can love it.
I was there for Juan Pablo Montoya hitting the jet dryer. Yeah, I was on the front stretch. So literally, like, I'm in the tryout. Nobody else is going to care about this. Y'all just turn it off, whatever. But
I got race fans. We're roofers.
Okay, cool.
If they don't watch, I don't care.
I'm just past start finish in section 401, whatever. It's kind of the middle of the grandstands. And literally Juan Pablo hits the jet dryer. Remember, like, this whole situation, like, we had been rained out. It ended up being Monday night. So, like, it was a crazy ordeal.
All the good races happen on Mondays after rain.
Oh, dude, I wish they would just turn it to Monday. It'd be awesome. Juan Pablo hits the jet dryer in turn 3, which is, like, forever away from us. And we could feel the heat from the jet dryer whenever it happened. And I mean, it was just like, holy cow. Like, it was something else, man. I am glad that I could say I was there. I'm glad everybody was okay. But that was intense, man.
And I'll tell you what, poor Juan, he's one of the greatest drivers in the history of racing, but that's what he's known for by the common fan, is like the dude that hit the jet dryer. So
think about what he would have done. If he wouldn't have went to Ganassi, if he would have went to Hendrick, like what was supposed to happen, right? He was supposed to go to Hendrick. Hendrick signs Busch instead of him. If he would have went to Hendrick instead of Ganassi, there's no telling what he would have done in our industry. He's literally, I think Kyle Larson's probably the greatest race car driver that we'll ever see in our lifetime. Like, just natural talent, and he works towards it as well. But Juan Pablo was definitely, oh man, I don't know. SVG is pretty legit.
It's impressive. I mean, for a guy that just kind of comes on the scene, wins his first ever cup race and his first start, it's like, okay, that's all there is to it. But now he's impressive on all tracks, and it's like, hey man, I respect that. It's not easy.
He did great at Dega.
Yeah. Then hey, there's a lot to be said for that. There was a huge wreck there, and that's a lot of fun. So I didn't even
Yeah.
expect to talk about racing. That's a whole other show for itself.
Oh
But
man, I
I
love it. That's
appreciate
what we
that.
should do. Let's just start a racing podcast or whatever. We'll just do
Game
that.
on, dude. We'll get Jeremy Mayfield to be as our first guest. I've got tons I'm on videos from Jeremy when he came back into racing. It was cool. I lived in Ohio, and his first race that he did back was at Hickory Motor Speedway. And I'm sure you know where Hickory is in North Carolina.
Absolutely.
And I saw on Twitter, they're like, Jeremy Mayfield practicing the 79 modified. And I was like, what? Okay. I drove to Hickory that day and I went to the race and I met Jeremy and his wife, and they put me on a couple of their videos. I got to get down in there and kind of explain why I was still a fan and why I drove all that way and all that. And I got a personal shout out. I got to go to a couple of their races and have kind of maintained contact over the years. And yeah, that's going to be the biggest thing, because anybody that knows me knows that Jeremy has been my favorite race car driver since before, when he was with Penske back in the 12 car and even before that. So pumped about that.
Yeah.
That's going to be coming up pretty soon, I hope.
I wish Michael and Daryl would have stood up for him a little bit more. The Walter brothers.
It is what it is. And I understand, when something like that happens to you, you find out that, maybe not everybody was your real friend at the time, and maybe they were, more concerned about their own. And I can't blame anybody for not stepping up and doing it, because you see what happens to those that do.
With all the sponsorship and stuff, they really got to watch their P's and Q's for sure.
Yep. And, I like the grassroots stuff now. I like watching modifieds, and I love the Grand National Super Series, which is probably like the mid 2000s Cup cars. And, before they had the COTs and all that garbage that they've got to today, when they could actually go out there and run side by side, and they run short tracks and do 50 lap races, a couple of them at each event. And that's my racing fix.
Are you keeping up with Curtis's son, Curtis Sutton from Rackley Roofing in Nashville? Are you keeping up with his son at all?
I know that they've got a pretty darn good team, and they do a lot of late model racing and a lot of truck racing and stuff like that. And I know they had Matt DiBenedetto last year.
Yeah. So the last truck, where was that? It wasn't. He was in the top. He just finished top 5, so he took over the ride for DiBenedetto. He showed up at the Richmond or not Richmond. I can't remember, but yeah, I think the kid's got killer talent, and obviously he's got money. So you got to have money in NASCAR, and I mean everybody knows that. And I think Curtis is more than willing to do whatever he can. He's got War behind him, and it's gonna be a big deal. I love seeing Rackley out there anyway, because it used to be like when CMR was out there and Steve was sponsoring. Like for me, that was. When we went and knocked doors, by the way, for CMR down in Naples, it was cool as hell, because we were able to hand out folders with the NASCAR car on it and all that stuff. And I mean, that made a big difference. That helped out a ton. So, but yeah, I hope Curtis's son does really well, and I think he will. I think he doesn't really have any other choice, I think, but to be great.
Right. Yeah. Go out there and make it happen. I actually sponsored a race car. It was kind of funny. There's a dirt modified down in North Carolina, and it's a buddy of mine, Michael Lanier. I only met the guy one time at an actual race. It was a modified race. And years later, we were friends here on Facebook. I ordered some of his shirts, and I just came up with the idea. I said, dude, I've always wanted to sponsor a car. And I sent him $500, and I got a little logo on the quarter panel of his car, and it's still on there a couple of years after the fact. And I always tell people that was my big thing. When we started the company, they asked me, what's your one crazy dream that it would be amazing if this could come true? And it was, I'm going to own a race car, and I'm going to sponsor Jeremy Mayfield. So I hadn't done that yet, but let's put it together.
Let's put an ARCA car together and put Mayfield in it.
I'm down, and I'll play this, and I will send it to him, and I bet he'll do it. So
let's do it.
We're going to start an ARCA team.
I'm telling you right now, we could put an ARCA car together and do that. I wholeheartedly think, we could find enough people to get Jeremy back in there. Will NASCAR let him back in?
I don't know. That's going to be the question I have. I mean, he's racing regularly, full time, and he's winning races. He's about to win the drivers' championship, and the skills are definitely still there. I don't know if there's statute of limitations.
So the ice cream, right? The ice cream.
Yep.
My ice cream now is to have that logo on the hood of a car.
All
Like
right, let's make
whatever
this
that looks
happen,
like.
folks. Because if that happens, I'm going to be like, I'll be the top fan for that car. I can assure you.
Yeah.
Wow,
I'm in
that's gone off onto a whole different conversation than what I was
completely.
planning on today, and I love it. And I could definitely talk about that for days. So rather than
Yeah.
bore our fans that don't care about NASCAR and all that,
Yeah, right.
I want to ask this. Okay, we've covered a ton. A lot of people are going to watch this and they're going to say, "Man, I really like this guy. He's got a great personality, out there helping people." How do people in our industry that maybe are struggling, need some training, need some help, want to hire your team to come out and do some door knocking campaigns? What's the best way that they can get a hold of you and your team to make that happen?
Yeah, just go to roofnuts.com. There's a part on there where you can book a call with me, or if you want to fill out one of our forms, just go to roofnuts.com, give us a shout, where we can do to help. And then, training wise, just book an appointment with me and we'll kind of talk about what that looks like and how we can help. And, I just love to pour into anybody I can. So and Chuck, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for having me on here. It's been really, really cool.
Oh, this has been an absolute blast.
Yeah, we're gonna go through the whirlwind of NASCAR after this. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, we're gonna win the ARCA race at Daytona. I think it's
Yes!
gonna happen now. So
Let's
what?
do it.
That's the one we're going to. So
I'm calling Billy Venturini tomorrow. I'm gonna call Billy. I'm gonna be like, Billy, I need one car for Daytona 2025.
and if we're gonna get a car, we might as well call the best, and that's pretty damn good. So
Yeah.
I like that. I do want to end with one final thing, and it may take more than like a minute or so, but
Yeah.
you started off telling me about your motivation being ice cream. I'm not going to go to Culver's, but I love Culver's. You told me that when you started in the industry, you were 350 pounds.
Yeah.
You're not 350 pounds now, my friend.
No.
So tell me a little bit about this, because you sent me a message the other day that really, really hit me and made me feel really good about myself. Now, I'm not so good about myself, but good that someone, that's probably shitty, but you know what I mean. It made me
you should feel good because it's about the stories, right? We're always like facts tell and stories sell at the end of the day, right? I mean, that's just the bottom line, no matter what. And so I heard about you losing weight, and I saw the gentleman you had on the other day, and all that good stuff. And so for a long time in our life, Kim and I were paycheck to paycheck, and I actually made a TikTok about it today that we had insufficient funds and it didn't really matter anymore because all we had to do was move money over. But like forever, all I was focused on was, I don't want to say comfortable, but like making sure that I had money, right? That was all I focused on. I was so worried about money that I would go be successful and then I would eat myself to sleep, right? Because I'd worked so hard. And so for about 6 months now, we've been on a journey of losing weight. Kim and I have. And we're using semaglutide and tirzepatide. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's to me, it's the magic drug because I didn't know what it felt like to be full. I had never in my life ever. There was some GLP, whatever it was. I didn't know what it was like to be full. I'd never felt that before. What it was like to be like, oh, I can't take. I've heard skinny people be like, I can't take one more bite. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, me neither. Yeah, I can't take one more bite, whatever. Like I'd heard that before, but I never felt that, if that makes sense. And Absolutely. So for me, when semaglutide came to my life, we're lucky enough in Georgia where you can get compounds from your local pharmacist. My pharmacist makes compounds. He kind of blends it for us. We put a little B12 in ours. We have a few other things. And then we live in a very calorie deficit. We try to live there with really high protein. So I think, for me, Michael Stearns, he'll never hear this, but I mean, maybe one day, but Michael got me hooked on like a lot of the protein stuff that I use to this day, the chips and the things that I need for protein purposes. And then, we just try to stay super active. We go whitewater rafting and we go hiking and we do stuff like that. And I'm not really wanting to go to the gym just because it's just like, for me, like going to the gym's just, it never was a part of my life. You ask about golf. Golf was something that I just go to the golf course. It's what I used to do. And people that usually are healthy or whatever, they just go to the gym. That's what they do. And so I never was that person. And Kim thinks the gym's boring. So we always just go hike or we go whitewater rafting or we go do something. But we try to stay active. we're super heavy on the semaglutide, tirzepatide situation. I just switched over to tirzepatide, so I say that. And we stay in a calorie deficit. We really watch what we eat. And now I didn't even know how to count calories. I didn't know how to count protein. I didn't know any of that stuff. So we're just super educated. I think through life, you have these moments where you're solely focused on something. And for a long time, we were solely focused on growing roof nuts, and blessed to have what we have with the roof nuts now. And now our focus has changed a little bit to maybe we want to stick around, but a little bit longer than what we could, we were going to in the past. And we don't have kids, but for me, the way, I think I said this earlier, my legacy is going to be what I leave to the roofing industry at the end of the day. And I want to be able to touch a bunch of people. I mean, this afternoon, I've got a bunch of 21-year-olds that are in Maryland that are texting me because I put up a money offer for them to go get a certain amount of leads by Thanksgiving. And so, that's a legacy I want to leave, because I want to show them they can do better. They can be better, and they can be something amazing. And, what is his name? Myron Gold the other day said, you can always, anybody can start a business, and you can have a successful company overnight. But what most people don't realize is that it takes a very long time to become the person that can start a business and make it successful overnight. So I'm really working on the person more than anything else at this point.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the key to it. Improve yourself a little bit daily. And at the end of every year, you're going to look back and say, wow, that's pretty crazy. I can't wait till December 31st of this year, because I have been working hard, and I take a picture with my shirt off. I've done it the last 2 years. In my entire life, I could never do that. I never had the confidence to do it, but I've been working really hard. And I'm going to unleash some abs this year to the world. So
boy,
stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to give you guys a reason to stick around to New Year's, if nothing else. So, Jay, man, I can't thank you enough. Like I said, you and I just met. It's crazy that all these years in the industry, this is the first time. I've had such a blast with this episode. It's been an hour and a half. You just talked about TC Backer and doing it for an hour and thinking, man, that went quick. I didn't even get to ask you about that experience. So we're going to come back and do this again sometime in the not too distant future for sure. I appreciate you taking the time and just, your energy. I love it. I think you and I are cut from the exact same cloth, and I think it's really cool to be able to have a conversation like this. And I'm gonna consider you on my friends list for the rest of my days here. So I appreciate you taking the time. Everybody that watches Keeping It Rio, I appreciate you guys. I do need to, once again, because I forget to do this on occasion, thank my sponsor, which is roofer.com. Thank you, everybody at Roofer, for all that you do for me, for Rio Blanco Roofing, my company. I run the entire CRM program, and I absolutely love Roofer. I have friends every week that call me, and I explain why it's so awesome. And then they tell me that they signed up. So thank you guys for what you do for me. It helps my company out tremendously, and those relationships in the industry are absolutely great. So thank you guys, and until next time, this has been episode 184. I always end it with the most corny ass tagline in the history of everything, which is keep on keeping it Rio.